Hello, YouTube. So, I'm doing something kind of unusual here where I'm going to be updating you on the Ghost Trap. So, if anybody who's watching this recalls, probably like 2 weeks ago, I posted a video on my Hollywood collectible group's Ghost Trap. And overall, I was pretty disappointed in it. It just was missing a lot of detail. The build quality wasn't great. And it needed a lot of work. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and try to make it better and just try to get it as accurate as I could. Um, so this this strap here is the result of that. So I'm going to kind of go through all the changes that I made, and that of course my good friend over at Halowax's Basement Builds, all the changes he made, because it was absolutely a group effort. So right off the bat, probably the two most important changes, the things that really altered how this thing looks, is the addition of this cable. The cable was from an Etsy seller, Charlesworth Dynamics. And for anybody who watches Tested on YouTube, they've probably seen him. He does a ton of 3D printing. He's super talented with 3D printing. He also he modeled and 3D printed his own Ghost Trap, and on his Etsy store, he sells a lot of components for it. And one of the things he sells is this very accurate cable. I bought it as the Unassembled Kit, and the kit came with the split loom cable, an internal hose, the twist ties here, the zip ties, and also the female connectors, which are metal. They're the screen accurate ones. He also carries, let's see if I can. He also carries the accurate male connectors, and again, those are metal as well. He does have a 3D model kit for those if you're looking for something a little bit less expensive, but the cable itself was $30 unassembled, and these I think were like $7 or $9 each. So it was a pretty cheap upgrade. Another huge upgrade was the addition of the actual decals. For some weird reason, the original trap did not have any decals applied to it, except for this one here and a couple water slide decals. And it just made it read so bare. Even the Matty Collectibles had pretty accurate decals on it. This one I added because in the scene when the Ghostbusters are coming out of the ballroom in the Sedgwick Hotel and Ray's holding up the trap, to me, it looks like there is an additional danger sticker there. And I have always loved that entire sequence. In fact, that scene is probably my very favorite scene in all of Ghostbusters. So I really want to replicate that trap as much as I could. So those were two major changes that really had an impact on how this thing looks. I also added weld lines on the sides of the handle. Originally, it was just sort of like seated in this column and it's screwed in. And when I was looking up reference for the trap, I saw that there were weld lines here. So I used plumber's epoxy or epoxy putty just to make it, which I had done on the Proton Pack too. So it's a pretty good way of making welds. Or you can use hot glue also. Another change that was made was to the doors. In the film, the original prop, the stripes on it, it was made using tape. So we ended up using black electrical tape and yellow duct tape. And, I know it seems like kind of cheesy, like, oh, that's how they made the prop, but it works. And I think the way it looks is really good too, because it just has a reflective quality to it that the rest of the material doesn't have. So it just gives you some visual interest. Another alteration that was made was to this resistor over here. When it came in, it was just this very dark kind of bronze color, and it didn't have the correct connectors on it. It just had wires sticking out, which I thought weird. So I bought a very cheap $6 resistor from Amazon. And I had done this on the Proton Pack too. And I pulled out these connector tabs, drilled little holes in there, and just glued them in. So now it looks much more accurate. And then I also used a gold paint marker or gold paint pen to just add some highlights to the resistor. So that way it kind of helps it pop a little bit more. Another change that was made was this dummy LED was added. So we just did that today. Halox drilled a small hole here, and then E6000, this dummy LED to sit in there. The prop trap also had green wires that went around it, and that just helped to control some of the special effects of the trap. So that was added in. It doesn't serve any purpose, but it just helps sell it, adds some visual interest, adds a little bit of color. The most challenging change that was made to it was adding functional wheels. So for whatever reason, apparently it was too much effort or too expensive for Hollywood Collectibles Group to actually have functional wheels. So instead it had these really lightweight resin casts that weren't even full circles. They just kind of sat in these recesses and they called it good. And they were screwed in. And it just seemed so cheap and sad that it didn't actually have wheels on it. So we were able to get these bearings, and I don't know how he does it, but Halox was able to get these things at a steal. Like, he got them for so cheap, and they can range in price. Sometimes they can be really cheap, sometimes they can be really expensive, but he was able to get them at a killer price. And we actually couldn't even affix these the proper way, so he ended up 3D printing these like channels that he then screwed in, and so now this has functional wheels. Look at that, just like it should. And there were other little things that I did along the way too. I did some weathering of it, just adding some silver highlights throughout, because I really wanted to try to make it read like metal, when in actuality, come to find out, the prop itself is primarily made out of MDF, which, for anybody who is thinking about purchasing this trap, consider the retail cost of this thing is about $500. So you're paying $500 for MDF. Again, as I had stated in the original video, I was able to get it through Sideshow Collectibles at a discounted rate because I had a bunch of reward points. So I ended up paying about half price for it. Thank goodness, because if I had paid full price, I would have been really, really, really angry. But that is the updated trap. I think overall it turned out really well. I'm pumped with how it looks. I'm really surprised at how well it turned out, given the state of it when it originally arrived and how unimpressive it was. There are still a couple things that I want to do to it. I want to add the V-hook on the bottom. There's also a sticker that belongs on the bottom, but I have to get another sheet of Proton Pack stickers for that. So it's not something I have to do right away, but I absolutely do want to add that. Halox and I also talked about changing this to an aluminum tube like it should be, and also an aluminum post. That way you can kind of carry it around, because as it is, I don't plan on carrying this around with me anywhere. I just feel like it's way too delicate, being made mostly out of MDF and resin. So that's it. I hope people enjoy seeing this and the updates to it. And if anybody has any questions about the changes that were made, or thoughts or comments, I always love to hear them, and I do try as much as possible to respond to those. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.